So I'm going to talk about my time on the agency side and then transitioning over to DMO and kind of the lessons that I learned on the agency side and then how I brought them to the DMO and the challenges I faced when doing so. So I also have my notes here just because I will go off on tangents if I don't. So I know what I'm saying, but if I'm looking over here, that's all. So I'm Grace, like I said. I now work for politics in DC. It's very weird. It is not something that I'm used to or really enjoy. I don't really care about politics, but I'm gonna try to enjoy it and be out of this amazing travel world for a little bit. I kind of lied, so I took a short break between the agency side and the DMO that I worked for 4 months. So that was my caveat between leaving the travel world and I was already back in it. But I think this one will be a little bit longer, but probably not too much longer. So I worked for MNGY Global. Has anyone here worked with them, heard of them? Okay, so they're based out of Kansas City. Their goal is to inspire people to go places, which is pretty good goal for DMO. But there I worked with a bunch of clients. Are any of these people here? Okay, good. That means I can talk about them. Just kidding. But no, so I worked with all of these brands. I also did work with Cleveland a little bit when MMGY did their rebrand. I was actually on staff at that time and helped with all of their brainstorms and all that stuff, but I didn't actually do their channel management. Okay, so being at an ad agency is exactly like Mad Men. It's not at all. Like, not even a little bit. The drinking, nothing. It's not like that at all. But the focus that I did have at MMGY Global was all social for the most part. So I did channel management for all of those clients that you saw up on there. So when people tell me like, I don't have time to look at what people are saying on Twitter, I'm like, well, you find time because I did it for 5 clients every day. So the other things that I focused on at MMGY were content marketing, data-driven strategies, and integrated marketing strategies. Sure, everyone here knows all about those and is sick of hearing about them, but they aren't for me. So kind of my idea of what all of that means is it's a perfect storm. So Twitter, Facebook, your responses to people on those channels, what you put on your website, what you're doing with email, all of that stuff creates a big perfect storm. And to me, that is exactly what content marketing is, because let's say you look at Twitter as thunder and website content as rain and wind could be Facebook, whatever it is, all of those channels are working in their own way but to produce one big story and one end goal all the time. Okay, so we're gonna jump a little ahead and talk about my transition from agency to DMO. So I am one of those weird people that visited Washington, D.C. as an 8th grader and knew I wanted to live there. So from the time that I started working with MMGY Global, I knew that eventually I wanted to end up in DC doing exactly what I was doing there for them. So I helped manage a group of interns at MMGY Global, and our client happened to be Destination DC. So I'm like, oh yes, this is my in. So during that time, I helped them with everything, made contacts at Destination DC. They presented, it went really well. A week later, I happened to be in DC. I booked that trip because of that happening. Made an appointment to meet with who my future boss would be to talk about what the interns did. Really, I was just scoping a job. They did not have one available at that time, but I at least put my name in front of them. They knew who I was. So about 10 months later, I moved to DC for another job and still was scoping them all the time. Happened that the digital marketing specialist position opened up. I contacted that person that I had gone and pretended to talk about interns with, and he hired me, which was amazing. So what I was doing there, all about email. I didn't really touch their social. I didn't really touch much of anything else in their digital except for email and website content and website maintenance, right? So that was all great, and I knew that when I signed up to take this job, but at the same time, I knew that with my background on the agency side that I was going to be able to kind of weasel my way into the other sections if they needed me to. So, the big question that I started asking people, so at the agency, I had to answer this question for every single thing I did. if I wanted to post something on Facebook, if I wanted to talk about something on a client's website, anything that I wanted to do, I had to provide a strategic answer to this question. It used to drive me insane because I would post something on Facebook, immediately my boss would pick up the phone and go, why did you just post that? And if I couldn't tell him, well, this data told me to do it at this time about this content pillar, then I was in trouble. So I learned very early to always be able to answer this question. Now, when I got to Destination DC, I became that kind of annoying boss, and I was asking all my coworkers all the time, why are you doing this? So even if it was something like an e-newsletter to their members, I would say, well, why do you guys do this? Well, we have to do it, answers like that. Or I would say, well, okay, I understand you have to do it, but why are you talking about what it is in your newsletter? Did you test into that? Kind of walking through that process. Every single time, I had the same answer. Anyone guess what that answer is? Right. So constantly, this is the number one answer that I get from everyone. And it pained me to hear that. And my coworkers couldn't quite understand why I was so I would cringe when they would tell me that. And I would kind of ask them, well, if we did things for this reason all of the time, what would happen? So first of all, we need to stop doing that. I would tell them, you don't need to necessarily be doing something if it doesn't make sense, right? So if you've been doing something for 10 years, doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. Because if we did, we would be left with these lovely things, which I didn't know what that thing on the right was, the far right. I had to ask someone. He told me that it's a telegraph. I didn't know that. I was actually asking people in my office at the DMO before I left there, what are some things that I could share that we could talk about that have changed enough in our time that really showed this. And one of the interns told me the iPhone. I was like, oh god, child, the iPhone is not that old. So we're going to transition a little bit. We're going to go into what I call the C word, and not that C word, the almost worst C word for people, change. So agencies do change really well. Want to know why? Because they're comfortable with it. They may not always be ready with the next answer, but they fully know that things have to change, and they constantly will change. They really do embrace this idea that they put all of their energy into building the new instead of fighting the old. So whenever I start talking about things that are uncomfortable for people, such as change or doing things differently, I like to remind them that everything is going to be okay, and I like to put big smiley faces because it really is. Everything is going to be just fine. Okay, so this is a little bit embarrassing because I actually did not know that William was going to be in this room when I was talking and building my presentation, but this is a document that I came across before I even knew what Destination Think was. Have any of you guys read this? 5 levels? Okay, well, if you haven't, we're going to focus on 1 level, but I would Google this and find it. It is so relevant. When I was reading this, I was like, oh my god, this is right. Hashtag nailed it. Yes, this is what I've been trying to get across the whole time. So find this, read it, it's awesome. We are going to talk about level 3 because consistently at my time at the agency and with Destination DC, most destinations are at this level 3, right? So I'm not going to read this to you because you guys can all read, but basically we are not doing things in a way that has social at its core. It's kind of an added afterthought for some people. They kind of know they need to be doing it or they could be doing it better, but they aren't necessarily doing that. So we're going to talk about some of the characteristics of a level 3, and we're going to do a little group participation here. You don't have to raise your hand high, but as I read these, if one applies to you or your DMO, just raise your hand and keep it raised. I will do the same thing. Okay, so at your DMO, does leadership realize that social media can be powerful, but still relies and insists on traditional methods because they are more comfortable with them or do not know how to measure and compare the difference in results? Okay, so keep your hands up. Marketing agencies that reluctantly incorporate social into campaign strategies, often as an afterthought and or without understanding social media principles. Okay. Little integration or collaboration with members, partners, and industry. This one's kind of tricky because we do, but we may not do it well. Heavy scheduling and approval process for social media activity. This one was huge with my clients. Broadcast style social media, so are you just blasting out messages all the time and not really focusing on that engagement piece? Viewing and communicating with fans and followers in a traditional outbound marketing way. Yes. Year-round efforts on Twitter, Facebook that lack strategic direction. Oh yeah. Every single client I've ever worked with has that same problem, including Destination DC. Sorry, I lost my place. Social media blackouts when there is no campaign to market. Frustrated or maxed out staff who understand the potential of social media but are not heard by leadership and sometimes need or want more training. Often staff skilled in social media leave an organization out of frustration. Budget that is small and budget that is a small portion of marketing campaigns, and then lack of appropriate metrics with success often measured either by big numbers, such as followers, or the level of creativity. So I really liked that post. Okay, so at one point, I think we all had our hands up, right? So the good news is, you're not alone. We all deal with this same thing. So the other word that I really want to focus in on this is content, because agencies know content, right? That is what they do all day, every day, no matter what department it is. Their email department, their social department, their website content department, their creative department, their analytics, they're all dealing with content all of the time. So leading me into content marketing. Does everyone here know what that is? Does anyone here have a content marketing strategy in place? Awesome. Okay, so Destination DC did not when I started. When I first started and I asked them, have you guys ever talked or thought about utilizing content marketing? They thought that meant banner ads, and they told me, yes, we do. And I was shocked to see what they thought that was. That's okay. So I kind of took my agency stuff of content marketing and said, okay, Destination DC, we can do this too, and we can do it better because I'm here in the destination. I'm not doing it from behind my computer in Kansas City like I was for all my clients. Okay, so you all know what content marketing is. I really hate definitions like this because I think they don't really tell you what it is. I do think that the most important aspect of content marketing is social media. I think social media really has to be at the core of everything that you all do. And I'll explain why in a minute. But really what content marketing is, it's website content, it's Facebook posts, it's tweets, it's Instagram posts, it's YouTube videos, it's responses to these people, it's what the people are saying to you, it's your Pinterest boards and pins, emails, blogs, traditional media, and non-traditional media. So banner ads, I put ew because I hate banner ads. I know that they are not going away yet, but do you guys all know what banner blindness is? So our brains teach us to not look at anything on this part of the screen because we know it's advertisements. So staying on top of trends such as native ads, does anyone know what that is? Okay, so native ads are awesome. Before I left DDC, I was really trying to get them to shift some of their strategy to native ads. Basically, native ads, for anyone that doesn't know, it's basically a sponsored piece of content that falls within a page. So it seems like it's a natural article. It does not feel like an ad. It does not look like an ad. Okay, so why is social so important? I love data. People at Destination DC used to give me so much crap because I constantly was throwing numbers at them or asking, well, what does the data tell you? But it's important. 33% of people say they reference social media for travel ideas and inspiration, more than OTAs and any other website. 48.1, so almost half of America used social media for travel planning in the past 12 months. That's huge. Half of America used social media to plan a trip in the past year. And then these two I actually think are the most relevant. 62% of people are likely to be influenced by their friends or family for travel inspiration more than any other source. So 62% of people are asking their friends and family, hey, where should I go? And they're not even listening to what we're saying as the brand, right? Because they don't trust, they know that we want them to come to our destination because we want them to visit. We want their money. And then 43.2% of millennials use the opinions of friends and relatives via social media for travel inspiration. We have to keep up with those millennials. I am one, so I don't talk badly about them, but I know that they are a huge buzzword right now. But they use social in ways that is so amazing that I can influence people to go places, my friends and family to go places. I don't know why they're listening to me, but they are, right? And it's all because I'm giving this authentic recommendation to them. So the other thing about this, which if you can see my smileys, because I know this is kind of scary for some people, brands have to let go of control of the message, right? So you need to use user-generated content, and you have to become a content curator versus a content creator. Why do we do that? Because we know that people are not listening to brands. So why not let our audiences help us sell our destination and tell our stories? So I'm here to talk about exactly that. It's something that I did at Destination DC before I left. We did have a person on staff that technically did our social. He also did every single piece of writing for the entire organization, whether that was leisure side or meeting side. So he had a big job. So him and I became very close very quickly. We always tease each other. People always think that we're married because we fight like we're married and we finish each other's sentences like we're married. We are not. But he would let Instagram go a couple days, sometimes a week, with no posts. So I'm like, all right, Andrew, you can't do that. I'm gonna help you. So the month of June, I said, let me take over our Instagram. Just let me run this test. We'll see what happens. He said, all right, fine. So in the month of June, right, first month I'm doing this, over 10,000 likes, over 3,000 comments. We added over 1,000 new users. And in that month, I didn't take one picture. Nothing. I curated every single picture. It was the biggest growth we've seen on that channel ever. It was awesome. So why is this curation so important? And really, this is something that agencies have been doing for a long time. It just really hasn't been called user-generated content until recently. But I was always doing fan photos, Fan Friday, that type of thing. But curation is important for a few reasons. One, as you can see, people are already having a conversation online about DC. There's over 1 million uses of the hashtag Washington DC. So we need to more lead that conversation in a way where we're sharing their images, kind of showing them what we want them to share, and let them do the selling for us. The other added bonus of this, so what we had started to do right as I left is we're doing takeovers of this account, and we reach out to a photographer in DC who has a lot of DC pictures. He or she will take over the account for a week, sharing 3 to 5 images every day. They also get to write the caption. We would obviously edit it, but we want it to be in their voice. We don't want it to sound like Destination DC is sharing this photo. But in doing so, we also have them sign a contract that says we can use their images for our guides. What are those called? Visitors guides. On our website, pretty much anything. So guess what got cut? Our photography budget, and we put it somewhere else. So, and these are photographers that are not shooting solely on their iPhone. They're using their big cameras and they're uploading those to Instagram. So really high quality images. And the other part of this is they have a huge following, a lot of them. So because I'm sharing their stuff on my channel, they're getting their friends and family to follow us because we are highlighting them.
Question.
Yeah.
Are you defining curation as using other photographs of your area or getting someone else to do photographs of your area?
So I literally will just do a search of the hashtag either Washington DC, or for a long time we used DC Cool, and just taking content that other people are creating and sharing via that hashtag. So they're not necessarily creating it for me, they're just sharing their experience with our hashtag, so we always credit. That's one thing I should mention. We credit in 2 ways. We tag them in the actual photo, and then we highlight their handle in the comment.
Yeah. So you don't have to go through like a
So basically what I did, because like Chicago does this, Choose Chicago does this, and I know their social person pretty well, and I was asking her kind of how have you gotten around that? She was like, if you make it complicated, it is complicated. I ask these people, can I use your image? They say yes, and we use it. It's not this like big thing. Destination DC is a little funny because of where it's located. So from DC, so we're constantly worried about being sued and politics and all that stuff. But all I did was I created a document that basically said, if you share an image that is someone else's, they can't come after us because that's on you. That we can use your image, basically covering Destination DC's bottoms. But we ran that through a lawyer, and that's now all they do is they sign that, and then they provide all of their images in a Dropbox for the entire week. So when I say they're taking over the account, they're not actually, they have no access to the channel, right? They just provide us the images and the captions, and Andrew now will upload those every day. But yeah, so we have a pretty simple document. I mean, I guess they kind of probably feel like they're signing their life away, but it's one signature, kind of gives us free reign to say, you shared it, we didn't, if it's a problem, and we can use it for whatever we want, and we don't have to pay you. So I don't know, I don't really know why everyone wants to work with us, but they do. Okay, so my DC Cool. So Destination DC has a campaign that's called DC Cool. It's 2 years old. They are getting ready to do a complete rebrand and new website. And we are shifting to this idea of my DC Cool. How that came about was we felt like with DC Cool, we kind of saturated the market, and we were sick of telling people that things were cool instead of them telling us that things were cool. Because a chain restaurant in Washington, D.C., while it may not be cool to me, it is really cool to a visitor who has never had that restaurant before, let's say. So it's not really the brand job to determine what's cool and what's not cool, as long as people are sharing their experiences. So we just launched this. We first launched it with our members to get their buy-in. Like, hey, you should have your fans tagging images with whatever your hashtag is, or better yet, using ours. That's kind of a big ask, but some of them have. And then the way that we will talk about you and your business is we'll pull those images that are user-generated and share them on our channels. So 2 weeks ago, we asked users to start using this. There's already over 1,300, which is quite a bit. I mean, it doesn't have any money behind it yet. It's very new. So in 2 weeks, we were all pretty excited about that. And yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. That the reason why we did that is because we know that users no longer trust us. So if we can get users to sell Washington, D.C. to other users, we'll just curate their content for them. Everyone's happy. Okay, so how can you get your DMO to the next level, right? So the first step is investing. You have to invest in quality staff, and sometimes that means creating new positions, right? Which I know is scary, but all smiley faces, scary stuff, I know. But 49% of companies have hired an executive who is directly responsible for content marketing, right? And it's only going to increase this year to 60%. So someone that is solely overseeing content strategy, that is their job. So we also have to quit treating these digital positions as afterthoughts. Someone who does email and someone who does social media, those are full-time jobs, right? I always think about Andrew. I'm like, Andrew, how are you doing social and writing marketing copy and writing stuff for the sales team and writing emails, all of this stuff? And the problem is, he's not. So he is, but social suffers. I've had so many conversations with him about why haven't you responded to these 20 people who tagged us and said, hey, I'm in your destination, what should I do? And we don't respond. Like, that is a huge problem, right? So you have to invest money in these new positions and understand that digital roles are no longer things that tag on to other positions, right? So the other part of this is there are so many tools out there now, right, to help us do our jobs better. Yes, a lot of them you can do without. I can fully admit that, but there are some really great tools out there that would help me do my job a heck of a lot easier, and we have to start allocating money for those tools to help that staff that you're investing in. Okay, so the next step is to make a shift. So more smileys, I know it's still scary, but we kind of have to shift some of this traditional budget to a non-traditional or digital. So print ads can still be powerful, right? I am not telling anyone you should never do print ads. I'm just saying that when I found out at Destination DC, we spent more on print than we did on digital. I was like, whoa, it's 2015, I don't get it. So they actually are making that shift slowly. I think it's going from, it's barely changing. It's still very, very down the middle, but it's still, now it is digital, it's a little bit higher. But the main thing that I ran into at Destination DC, and really with all the clients I ever worked in or with, is people really still believe that social is a free thing. It is not. There's one channel that I can think of right now, Periscope, that is not a pay-to-play channel yet, right? So everyone was so excited when Instagram announced that, oh, everyone can buy ads. I was devastated because guess what? Instagram is no longer that fun channel. It's a paid thing now. It's the next Facebook, right? So this one is a little bit touchy, and I'm gonna say it really nicely because it's kind of scary. But we have to get a little bit less political, right? So just because someone has been in their job for 30 years doesn't mean they still need to have it. I'm not saying fire your staff. I'm just saying think about what your goals are. Think about what staff you have in place. Think about what staff you need in place to meet those new goals, and do the math. And the other part that's really, so I don't know if it's because I was on the agency side and then I was on the DMO side, but DC is a really tough place with members. Very political, not in the sense of like we're on Capitol Hill, but it's just everyone thinks that Destination DC can fix all their problems. And we can't, because we're not an ad agency, right? We're a DMO. But we have learned that saying no to members and to stakeholders is okay, as long as we can explain why we're saying no. So no, I'm not gonna tweet about your happy hour because it's not gonna help you at all. And it's on my channel, and that's prime real estate. But let's talk about getting your audience to share pictures of them at your business, and how can we share that on our channels versus just me saying like, oh, come to happy hour at 5 p.m. It just doesn't work, right? Another thing that we had recently started talking to with some local restaurants in DC was how can they use Instagram, which is such a food channel, to bring it to real life, right? So they're going to start highlighting the menu of the month, or the item of the month on the menu that was most shared on Instagram. And the way they're gonna measure that is they're gonna see if that item sales go up because it's on there. I guarantee you it will. I know it will. Nordstrom does this really well with Pinterest. If you ever go into Nordstrom, you'll see like a shirt will be the most pinned item of the month. I buy it every time. Every time. Okay, so the next step is to measure, right? So agencies, again, they do this flawlessly. They are constantly measuring everything. They measure at really, really small levels, they measure at really, really big levels. I think the smaller the measurement, the more tangible, the better it is. So, like let's say with that Instagram that I did for June. All I was looking at was for the month of June, if me sharing one image per day and me curating that content was going to increase our engagement, and it did. So I would recommend that set up these really small kind of experiments, do them for a couple weeks to a month, see what happens, and then implement it later. Do not invest a ton of time and money into something that you haven't proved works, right? You wouldn't do that in anything else in your life. Don't do that with social. Okay, so the biggest thing to remember at DMOs, every DMO I've ever worked with has this idea that they are so, so important. We definitely are, but we're not curing cancer, right? It's supposed to be fun. We're inspiring people to travel. Not a big deal. If someone tweets something that is wrong, please do not yell at them. It is okay. Everything is going to be okay. Because remember, don't worry about a thing, right?